We're just continuing with the halachot and Siman Samech Beh. We were speaking about having special clothing just for Shabbat. So Al Pi Arizal HaKadosh also, it's actually very good to change all our clothing in Shabbat, including our undergarments as well. And even if a person can't do so, they should actually even try. However, though the minhag of the majority of the world is not to be makpid anymore on changing even on our undergarments, and therefore, if you can, why not? But it's not anymore of such of an importance once the minhag haolam actually changed. Now, once we actually have this, which is basically that we have the important clothing for the Shabbat, there was a minhag that even though it should only be worn on Shabbat, there is also going to be a minhag that when there's going to be a wedding, bar mitzvah, whether Pidyon, Haben, Brit, Mila, we do use these Shabbat clothing, which are very important clothing. And again, that's the minhag haolam to use it, even though again, this is only really Shabbat clothing, but there is a minhag that we actually use these clothings for this as well. There's going to be another two halachot we're going to mention. One of them is to do with white clothing. What about wearing white clothing on Shabbat? So here, the Arizal HaKadosh says that obviously you should wear white clothing, and there should be the four clothing which are going to be levanim. Others say that they should all have white clothing. However, though here the video set brings down that according to whether it's a poskim kubalim, if the minhag of Gedolei Yisrael is not to wear white, so therefore it's actually prohibited to wear white. And if somebody actually wears white, it's fitting to actually put them in idui, because it looks like yuarav gava, it looks like haughtiness, and therefore was it showing that kilu he's a chassid more than them, and therefore he says minhag of rov Gedolei Yisrael bizmanenu is not to wear white, so a person should be careful that they actually don't wear white. The last halacha is something that's very widespread nowadays. We know that during the time of the Mincha of Shabbat is actually a very, very important time during the Shabbat. And all of a sudden a person comes on Friday night, they come on Shabbat morning, they come in their suit, they come dressed Mikdeh Shabbat, and all of a sudden comes the time of Mincha and they're winding down, and all of a sudden, as if to say that now they're coming more in the sports, or they're coming a little bit less any more of the white shirt anymore. Now it becomes a polo shirt, and it becomes this, and it becomes a little bit more light tuned. We have to remember that according to whether it is the way of the Kabbalah or whether it is also an halacha, what's the most important part of the Kippur? The Mila, which is the winding down, because it's going towards the end. Mincha Shabbat is actually the most important part of the Shabbat. If you remember on the nighttime, right, it's going to be like a female. That's why we do all the Eshet Chayil, we all do all the things of the female. In the morning, that's why Yanu Chuvah. In the morning, it's Yanu Chuvo. During the time of Mincha, it's the highest level, not only just because it's Mincha, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu always listens to the tefillot during the time of Mincha, Eliyahu Navi, and all these things, which obviously we could take a long time on. But it's actually the highest level of Kedusha during the time of the Mincha. So therefore, just like the time of Ni'ilah of Kippur is the highest level of the Kippur, so too the time of Mincha of Shabbat is the highest level of Shabbat. And therefore, just like we have the mitzvah to be very careful during Bigdei Shabbat, from whether it's going to be Friday night and Shabbat morning, so too during the time of Mincha, do not take it for granted and think, listen, we're already almost Saturday night. It's not Saturday night. It's Mincha and then you have Mosei Shabbat, right? Very, very important. They never called it Saturday night. It's very important about that. And therefore, the same thing, Mincha should be a very high time, which we're going to have very important clothing, which will still be Bigdei Shabbat during the time of Mincha. And I think it's just very, very important just to bring about, because a lot of people, they don't realize it, and they come and they're more laid back. So therefore, just pay attention also to this mitzvah, because you have the same mitzvah also during the time of the Mincha, and it's even more important than all the other times as well.
I think even Motzei Shabbat, it's mentioned for Suda Revi'it, no, anyway.
Also Bigdei Shabbat.